finally snapped. After yet another game where the refs ignored blatant fouls, she let her frustration boil over. And this time, she exploded.
The referees love to swallow their whistles at that time, that part of the game. But then again, they did not swallow their whistles with the foul call on Lexi Hall against Sabrina Ionescu just 3 seconds earlier.
The Indiana Fever were in a tight battle. The game was on the line. And when Caitlin got hit, everyone saw it, except the officials. No whistle, no call, just silence.
They're literally just running around hacking her. The referees have made it like a point that this is how you beat the Fever. You hack them. It's not being physical.
Silence added fuel to the fire. The perception, right or wrong, was that the league didn't care. And in a year where Caitlin Clark is single-handedly drawing millions of new viewers to the sport, that silence felt not just careless, but disrespectful. This wasn't just about a missed call anymore. It had become something bigger, a moment that sparked a serious discussion about how stars are protected, how fairness is upheld, and how much influence referees have over the outcome of a game. For many fans, this game marked a turning point. The frustration, the emotion, the blatant lack of justice, it all boiled over. And now people are demanding change. What happened that night didn't just cost the Fever a win, it cost the league a little bit of its credibility. And Caitlin Clark's reaction, raw, honest, and human, became the voice of that frustration for millions of fans watching. What we witnessed wasn't just a missed foul call, it was a defining moment, one that exposed a deeper problem in the WNBA.
A lot of ways to continue to get better, but yeah, I did not my best shooting night. I thought I could take care of the ball a little bit better. Had some tough ones, ones where my arm was getting grabbed, but whatever.
Caitlin Clark, one of the most talented and talked about athletes in the league, was denied a fair chance to do what she does best, compete. The footage is clear, the reactions have been loud, and the silence from the league has only made it worse. This isn't just about one play. It's about a pattern of officiating that continues to ignore contact, disregard fairness, and ultimately alter the outcome.
You just hack them because the referees are going to allow them to be hacked.
But what came next wasn't silence. Caitlin's reaction, her body language, and the way she confronted the moment, it said everything. The cameras caught it, the crowd felt it, and now the entire league is talking about it.
In this instance, there were similar fouls that were not getting called on the New York Liberty that were going towards the Fever. If you're going to call every ticky-tacky foul, okay, call it, but call it for both teams now.
This is more than just a missed call. This is about a pattern, about fairness, and about how one of the biggest stars in the sport is being treated. You're about to see why this moment is bigger than just basketball. To really understand why Caitlin Clark exploded on the WNBA, she felt robbed. She felt let down. She knew she'd been denied the opportunity to decide the game at the free throw line. Even her teammates echoed that sentiment. Aaliyah Boston spoke about how difficult it is to stay focused and composed when the officiating feels so one-sided. She admitted that as players, they don't have much choice. The referees are going to call what they want to call. That kind of quiet resignation only made fans more furious, because players shouldn't have to accept bad officiating. They shouldn't have to adapt to being ignored.
Yeah, and that's probably what's frustrating about it too. It's like we are 2 possessions or, from being 4-0, but there was so many little areas in this game that we could have improved. Like our defense again to start the game was poor. And we got to find a way to come out with more energy, be able to guard. And yes, they present a very tough challenge when all 5 of them can make threes and, they're setting inverted ball screens, things like that. It's a challenge, but you got to find a way to do it. If you want to win, in this league, you got to find a way to guard, you got to find a way to get stops. But yeah, I think you take that as a positive, you go back, you learn, but also we are 2 possessions away from being 4-0 and, a possession away from beating the Liberty here. So, it definitely stings, but, this is what's going to make us better.
As all of this unfolded, WNBA officials remained silent. No statements, no explanations, no accountability. That's NBA referees. We need to rewind and look at what's been building up. Because this moment didn't come out of nowhere. This was frustration that had been simmering for games.
Right there was the foul on what should have been a foul call.
And look at her face after this. Look at her face, because she knows she just got away with murder. She knows she just cheated.
Fever are furious postgame. No call on Bonner. Then they call Hull for a foul. Then Clark thought she was fouled by Cloud on the final possession. They just want consistency.
She fouled Kayla Clark right here. Fouled her right there, bro. If they call this call, Indiana Fever wins the game.
Let's talk about what happened. The Indiana Fever walked into a tough matchup against the New York Liberty, and while she made it clear that her players have to stay focused and control what they can, there was no mistaking her message. The WNBA needs to take a hard look at its officiating, because what's happening isn't fair and it isn't right. But it wasn't just Stephanie White speaking out. Players from other teams started to weigh in. Fans started calling for accountability from the league. Content creators across platforms began posting breakdowns of the final play, pointing out the foul frame by frame, exposing how obvious it was. Some called for a review of the officiating crew. Others went further, demanding the WNBA step in and implement changes to ensure consistency and fairness in how games are called, especially when it involves high-profile players like Clark.
But the crazy thing is that 2 games ago when Caitlin got hacked for the whole game against the Dream when they lost,
WNBA referee situation is really bad.
Breaking news hot off the press, so it looked like Stephanie White has called out the WNBA and the WNBA referees. Guys, for this one here, that is a WNBA referee turning his back to Caitlin Clark and the Fever. Oh, my God. I mean, he literally got his back turned, ignoring Caitlin. I mean, this is bad. This is bad. This is beyond bad, bro.
This pattern of bad officiating, or maybe deliberate neglect, started catching attention, and finally someone said what fans had been yelling at their screens for weeks. Stephanie White, the head coach of the Indiana Fever, had enough. After the Liberty game,
hasn't gone both ways, but we also can't allow that to consume us, right? Like, we've got to be able to play through that. We've got to be able to control the things that we can control.
Clark's reaction was immediate and emotional. She threw her arms up, punched the air in frustration, and stared at the officials in disbelief. It was the raw reaction of a player who had just watched a fair shot at a game-tying moment be taken away by the very people assigned to keep the game honest.
Right there was the foul on what should have been a foul call.
And look at her face after this. Look at her face, because she knows she just got away with murder. She knows she just cheated.
Replays of the play left no doubt. The contact was clear. Cloud's arm made contact with Clark's shoulder, disrupting her rhythm and preventing her from rising into her shooting motion. It was a foul, plain and simple. And had it been called, Caitlin Clark would have gone to the line for 3 free throws, with the chance to either tie or win the game. Instead, the clock expired. No whistle, no justice. What made it worse was what had happened just moments before. On the Liberty's,
it was one of the worst referee games I've seen.
She fouled Kayla Clark right here. Fouled her right there, bro.
In the first few games of the season, the officiating towards the Indiana Fever is very, very unfair.
If they call this call, Indiana Fever wins the game.
They hacked Bonner on a very crucial play that would have had the Indiana Fever up. The Indiana Fever go the other way, and there's no call.
Indiana Fever head coach.
Platforms lit up. Clips of the final play circulated across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Fans weren't just upset, they were outraged. The words robbery, bias, and agenda started trending. The reaction wasn't limited to diehard Fever supporters either. Neutral fans, sports analysts, and even former players came forward to say what everyone was thinking. Caitlin Clark was fouled, period, and the referee's decision to ignore it changed the outcome of the game. Stephanie White, head coach of the Indiana Fever, was one of the first to speak publicly. In her post-game press conference, she didn't mince words. She called the officiating egregious and pointed to the massive free throw discrepancy, minus 31, as undeniable proof that something was wrong.
Right after that,
31 more free throw attempts for one team? That changes the entire course of the game. And it wasn't just this one game. This has become a trend.
The thing about this game that really bothered me so much to no end is the fouls. And the Fever themselves were very upset in the post-game interview.
Go back to the Fever's game against the Atlanta Dream. Same story. Clark was getting harassed on drives. Obvious fouls were ignored. And once again, the referees just let it happen. The league's most watched rookie, a player drawing millions of new eyes to the WNBA, was being treated like an afterthought.